Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode on SAP UI5. In the last class of SAP UI5, we saw how can we create a table control with variety of columns. We saw using an XML model, how to use XML model to bind the data with the table control. I have already got the solution of the last exercise. I will share it in the training blog with all of you. You can download and try that out. Thanks once again to Raji for providing the entire solution for the exercise. So I will upload that today in the training blog, guys. You can download and check it out. The solution of flipping model exercise into the source code. And in today's session, we will start with resource model first of all. So what is resource model and what is the need for having a resource model in SAP UI5? So as you all know,
Hello, Anubhav.
yes, please.
Sorry for the interruption. But the status and the smoker was not binding properly for
I
children,
will check
right?
the code. I will check the code before sharing with everyone. Yeah,
Okay,
and then I
thank
will
you.
share it with you too so that you can go ahead and check it. Okay,
Yeah,
and
thank
I
you.
will maintain the comments in the code so you guys can refer to. In case further on, if you have any further doubts, you can come back to me. Okay, because that's a big exercise, and if I start going through it, then today's session will be gone into that exercise. Okay, so now what is exactly the resource model and what is the use of resource model? So what is resource model? So we all know that SAP is built for providing or creating softwares which runs for different multiple geographical locations. So one of the main advantage of SAP software is internationalization. What is internationalization? A software which can probably run for different countries, providing support for multiple language. So a software supporting, giving it for the translation team for translating it. So there are a lot of concepts which do exist in the system, which are related to translation. So a lot of things evolve around translation stuff into SAP. Now similar to that, we are also preparing a Fiori application over here, and this Fiori application we would be using to translate into different languages. And for exactly for that purpose, we have a concept of internationalization. So internationalization is a concept where when you use such a concept, you would be given opportunity users to run the app in a different language. So that's also sometime a job of a developer also, to provide the required translation as well. So we will look at both of these roles. What is the responsibility of each of the person? As a developer, what do you do? And as a translator, what do you do? Okay, so this is what we will be checking out in a minute. What is that you need to do? So as a developer, what you need to do is make sure make the use of I would say make use of resource model. And this is also in a short term, it's actually known as I18N. I18N means internationalization techniques. So a short form of internationalization is I18N. That's a short form of internationalization. So we usually create resource model with I18N name. Okay, so that's a step number one. As a translator, what you need to do? As a translator has to create files which has language specific texts for translation. Okay, this is what we exactly do. Okay, so let's go ahead to the system and try to create a resource model, and we'll see what exactly is our nitty gritty of creating a translation or a text relevant files and attaching or connecting that text file to our texts which we had put, our labels which we had put in the system. So you essentially would end up creating a resource model for this purpose. So let's go back to the system. I switch to my web IDE, and what I'll do is I'll create a new folder here. So right click and I'll say create a new folder for me, and this folder name I'll give it as I18N. Click on OK, And now inside this, I will say create a new file, and I just name it as i18n dot properties. This is the file name I'm giving. And now in this file, I will maintain all the texts which I want to translate into my application. So I will put here different texts, like for example, I want a text for employee ID, and that's a label actually. So SAP UI5, we always follow naming convention. So XLBL is the naming convention. It's a prefix which you ideally put for any kind of label. XTIT is the naming convention you follow for any kind of title. XBUT is what you put typically for creating any kind of button. Yeah, so this is the naming convention you have to follow. So if it's a title inside a table, then you would go with XTID. So like I'll just go ahead with XTID, and I'll say I want to do it for EMP ID, and I just mention employee ID, and then again XTIT underscore, oops, it's a kind of new laptop, so like very difficult for me to get used to its keyboard, so that's okay. Employee name, and then XTIT employee salary, and then comes his XTIT currency, then comes his XTIT, and then I say MStat status, XTIT smoker. So all the labels which we had put in the system, guys, I am just simply converting them into these things. And then you have also probably a button label, button title for flip flop, flipping the model, and I say change model. So I have many of my such labels which I have now defined as part of my i18n file. And now using this i18n file, you got to model or define a new resource model. So go to your models.js, which is a central repository for defining all the models. That's how we separated MVC artifacts. And here you have something called create i18n model method, which I had already provided a provision for. In this, now we just the process of creating model absolutely same, no change into it. The way you're creating other model, hope you can get that. So it's ui.model.resource, just that it's you are now creating a resource model. And remember guys, a resource model has a special property, and that special property is nothing but it's called resource bundle. So you have to give resource bundle, and then just provide system a path for this resource bundle. So you just got to give, oops, okay, so I have to come here and provide i18n slash i18n dot properties. This is my resource bundle. That's it guys, we are done. And now what I'm going to do is I just return this model out. Now another interesting point guys, you see we are using here these models, this resource model, this XML model, and this JSON model. So all of that I can also, to speed up my application, load these dependencies at the beginning. Okay, and which concept do we use to load all such dependencies at the beginning of application start? Which concept guys do you use to load the dependency at the beginning? Scaffolding template. Perfect answer, Samir. So we will be using scaffolding template. So let me just now put these dependencies and in the scaffolding itself. So I go on the top, you see JSON, we have already put it last time. And in scaffolding, the syntax is little different. It's not dot followed syntax, it's more like slash followed syntax. So SAP UI model resource model. Okay, and then comes is the next one here, and then I'll just put here the next model, which is my XML dependency. So I just say SAP UI model XML model. That's my dependency. I had put it, and I say resource model object will be coming into this, and then I say XML model object will be coming into these dependency objects. So here this XML model will be passed into this object and resource model will be passed into this object. I can use them now. It's pretty easy to declare it. So I just have to say resource model, and I have to come here and just say XML model, because that's my dependency management done on the top. Much better way of managing dependency. This is the power of scaffolding. It loads all the files from the UI5 SDK, from the UI5 bootstrap in one shot when your model file is called first time. So it doesn't have to go back and forth to load these files as a dependency for your purpose. Clear? So now we have to just go ahead and use this i18n dot model, and what I'll do is I just come to my controller. So maybe it just go to my main X controller. That's what I'm using. And now here I will define my third model hand in hand, and I will call this model as my internationalization model. And I say SAP UI get core oops dot set model, and then I will just pump in here models dot my model name, and that's it. So this model I'm setting as the name called i18n, guys. That's the name I'm giving to it. That's my resource model. And now if I want to refer any named model, which symbol do I use? Anybody? If I want to refer any named model, which symbol? Yes, arrow symbol is what you use. Yesterday we saw that as a Fundafox model name and arrow. Perfect answer. And now I use this and I go back to all my views. So let me just go to my view, XML view specially here, and then I have all my hard-coded labels over here, which I will replace it with the binding. So I just put curly braces, i18n, and arrow, and now I just have to copy this and make sure that everywhere it's same. And I just go back to i18n and xtit empid. So let me cut and paste this, copy and paste this into a separate file, notepad file. So let me just go ahead and put it into a notepad file, all the stuff, so that I can easily use this. So I can come here now, and now I can choose data from one by one from my notepad file and paste it in this. So xtit empid, that's the what I want. I paste it here, and then I just copy this and I just put it here in employee name, and for employee name it's xtit number. That's my employee name element. And then comes is my gender field. So gender I didn't put it, so no translation for this field. Salary field, so let's come and check that out. Here is xtit salary. So I cut this and come here, and then you can put of course curly braces and then i18n, and then we're referencing this model, and that's how you can also put it. So let's come back here, and that's it. And I will come down and you see there's a smoker guy also. So I just have to put my curly braces, i18n arrow xtit underscore smoker, and then similarly for marital status. So all the labels which you see, you will simply change them to the corresponding required data. So xtit underscore smoker, sorry, this is marital status. So what was the label we gave? I think mstat, yes. And then let's come back, and you can see also here these guys are also supposed to be changed. So let me just get for employee ID this one, same label I'm attaching now for my input labels too. Employee name, this is the one for employee name. I can bring that here for employee name. Then I have for salary, this one here, copy this and bring it also here for salary. And then we have currency. Oops, currency, I didn't put any element, I guess. So let me, yes, I had put it. So this I can use it. and here this is reference is incorrect. So I just correct, oops, I think it's correct only. So just have to use this and put it here with CURR. Okay, so that's what I put. I save this and we are done, guys. Now what you see is magic. And let's see when I now run this. So you remember, instead of EMP ID, we are now putting here employee ID, right? In our I-89 we had put employee ID. So we'll see quickly what exactly it shows us, and it shows us absolutely nothing. The reason is, I guess, we have some issue. Let's press F12. Did I do some typo which has caused this? So let's go and check that out. So I just go to my console, which is my best friend, and I'll ask console if you have any issue. You see here it says bundle name or bundle URL must be provided, guys. At least bundle name or bundle URL must be provided. So I think I've done a mistake while creating the model. It's not resource bundle, it's bundle URL. Okay, that's what exactly I missed it, guys. You see, while creating it, I just put resource bundle. It should be bundle URL or bundle name. Now let's come back, refresh the page, and voila, you see now, guys, what's happening. See employee ID here. Can you see employee ID, employee name, gender? So you see employee ID instead of EMP ID, it is all got this. And now you see, since there is a typo in smoker, I have got this guy here exactly printed the way it is. So there's some problem with the binding with the I-18N. So let's go back and check for smoker what is the problem with binding. So I can come back, so you can make out it's really truly picking things up from the resource bundle. So smoker is this one. I think it's snooker. I had put incorrect, and here in I-18N now I put smoker properly. Let's come back, refresh. So whenever you see a problem with label, it would definitely be something related to the I-18N. Okay, so you see now all the labels have been translated. Now some people will also say, Anubhav, what about this? Now do you think, guys, data can be translated here? Let's imagine you have material number coming from ABAP system. So would you translate your material number also in Fiori app? Does it make sense, or will you be doing that? How many things you will translate in Fiori? You won't. So this data has to come from SAP system. In SAP system, which concept is there to translate the data? Anybody? Which concept in ABAP? Any ABAPer in the room? Which concept in ABAP we use to translate the data? No. Conversion routine is for translating the format of the data, not for translation purpose. Its conversion routine is more like transformation, not translation. Translation is managed by text table concept in ABAP. If you're interested to know that concept, please subscribe to my ABAP training. I have explained it very well, including data dictionary concept in ABAP, in my ABAP training about text table concept. Okay, let's move on. So now what we see here is, we would see these labels, but now comes is the job of translator. So as a developer, your job is over, guys. As a developer, you have proved yourself, you made the application a provision so that a translation can be provided. But now as a translator, what is that we need? As a translator, we got to go back, and we got to now as a translator have to start with translating these things. So how can we do that? So for translation, what we do is we go back. Let's imagine now I'm a translator. So I make a copy of this data, this file I-18N, and I'll copy this, and suppose I want to translate to Hindi language. So I will paste it again on I-18N, and now what I'll do is I just change this and put the language code for Hindi. Okay, put underscore and put language code for Hindi. So Hindi language code is HI. Now you'll say, Anubhav, how do you know language code for Hindi? Just Google it, you will get it. So language code for Hindi, there you go. And I search for this, and you will see the standard language codes. So for German language it's DE, for Hindi you see it's HI. So just put your language code over there. That's a standard W3C reference for different languages. Different language codes are there. In one country you may have multiple languages, like India, diversity inclusion. We have a lot of different languages, about 22 to 25 languages we have it in our country. So accordingly, you can choose Telugu, Malayalam, or Kannada, or Marathi, Marwadi, Gujarati, whatsoever language you like. You can find the language code for that language, and then provide quickly a file is having I18 and underscore the language code. That's what you got to do. So that's what I'm doing. I say okay, and then it makes a copy of my file, and now here I will provide these texts into Hindi language, guys. Okay, I will provide these texts. So that's what a translator does. He makes a copy of this file and provide a copy in a way that he puts for every language which software has to support underscore the language code. So typically if you want a German support, you put the language I18 and underscore DE. That's a code for German language. Okay, and then suppose you only have to do this exercise, so go to Google Translation. So translate Hindi to English, or English to Hindi. Yeah, that's what I want, and Google opens up this for me, translating English to Hindi. And I'm just gonna cut and paste directly these labels, and you see Karamchari ID. That's the translation, or translation of this particular value, and you see Karamchari Sankhya. So I'll just copy this, and I'm going to paste it here, and you see the system is now taking this text up over here in my I18 directly, and I'll just cut and paste this guy and say Karamchari ka naam, and just paste it. That's good. And then say salary. Anybody salary? What do you call them? Vetan. Okay, Vetan. And then currency, that's good. Currency is mudra, good. And then marital status, Vaivahik Sthiti. Okay, so let's cut and paste, see if my Hindi is good. Yes, it's good. Vaivahik Sthiti is the correct one. And then comes smoker, Dhumrupan karne wala, good. Dhumrupan karne wala, there you go. Change model, let's see what it translates to Hindi. Model badle, good, very nice. So I had put now all these translated text into my I18 and Hindi file, and that's it. The game is on. That there's nothing more required as a developer or as a translator now. So now you'll say, Anubhav, how do I test it? How do I test if it's really taking up my my Hindi language text or not? So how can I can do that, Anubhav? So it's very simple. You can actually do that. So just go back to your output, and now when I'm gonna run it, I refresh, and what do you think, guys? When I refresh, will it get me the Hindi labels? Will it get me Hindi labels? No, of course not. What is that you think I need to additionally do to get my app running in Hindi language? Something I need to tell the system that, okay, man, maybe run it in a certain language, or change the language at the browser level. So changing the language at the browser level is a cumbersome task. You got to go to settings and change it, and then you see that all the other websites also got translated to that language. It's a difficult way of testing. I mean, it's like a cumbersome way of testing. You can do that. That's an easy way. What you do is just put a URL parameter here, question mark sap-ui-language equals to hi, the Hindi, the language code, and press enter. So oops, it's not working. I think I did a mistake. So it's question mark, I think it's M% I have to put, because it's not the first URL parameter. Only the first URL parameter should be put with question mark. So enter sap-ui-language equal to hi, which is my Hindi language, and voila, you see it has translated my language labels into the corresponding language, and as a result you see the whole application got translated indeed, except the data part, because as you know, that comes from the backend, that comes from your ERP system with the text table concept. But rest all the things which you see, which are kept into the I18 file, got really translated. Amazing concept, isn't it? So the URL parameter is sap-ui-language. Put it with M% symbol, at the end of the URL, and then you can test it your application. So I can now simply go ahead and change this this language value here into the URL, and it will accordingly react. I can test in all languages which I have it in the system. And now I know there's a bug with gender field. This didn't got translated, and then that's something which I can go back and check it. So you can just come back here and say, maybe go to Hindi, and there's nothing called gender related stuff. So I can just put underscore gen, and I say, I just got to get the translation now for this. So I just say gender.
Anubhav, I have a question here.
Yes, please.
Like, how do we actually pass that parameter in the browser? Like, how do we set it?
Okay, I'll come to that. A very good question. I understood your point. I'll come to that. Just one second. Okay, I just put it here now, and then of course I need to connect it also to my view. Don't forget to connect it with I18N model, otherwise you know the reason what will happen. If you just define and forget to connect, you have a problem. I18N and then arrow symbol and my label. Save this, and let's come back, refresh once again, and voila, you see this also got translated. So that's how you fix translation related issues in your project. Any label, all the labels always come from I18N, and if you're putting hard coded labels, you're killing yourself. You are killing the opportunity to translate the application into different language. That's what you're killing, guys. Okay, if you're doing so. So that's about the translation. Now the question comes here is, I have manually passed this parameter over here, right? So how would in real time actually happens when user is trying to run the application? How exactly this parameter is passed to the URL automatically? Now do you think when user use the app, he starts directly with your app URL? How does users consume your Fiori apps? Do they start with the app URL directly, just like in WebDyn Pro or other technologies? Of course not. So SAP Fiori, the single entry point for all application. Remember, this is a very important sentence. This is indeed a FundaFox. A single entry point in SAP Fiori application for all your entries. It's a single entry point for all application is Fiori Launchpad. Okay, so you always have to start with something called Fiori Launchpad. I will show you that in the next chapter. I'll start with the introduction just of the Launchpad. If you want to understand designing of Launchpad, how to build a Launchpad and stuff like that, please subscribe to my next course. So it's not covered in this course, designing of Launchpad. We will just discuss what is a Launchpad. Now, before even you getting into the Launchpad, user C Launchpad, we also have a standard logon pad for user where user logs in. Okay, for Fiori. So now let me show you a screenshot of that. So I'll quickly go here and say Fiori logon page and just say images, and you will see that this is how typically the Fiori login page looks like. Can you see the Fiori login page? I think it's so blur, I'm not sure. Yeah, now I think it's better. So you can see, you can make out how does exactly this such a login page looks like. And you see here there is a language field, guys, isn't it? There's a language field. So this is where user will say what is my login language. The moment user choose and say logon button, system automatically adds this particular parameter SAP UI language into the URL. Okay, so the moment you choose a language and say logon, system would add that particular language code automatically to the browser URL. That's what happens behind the scenes. As a result, you would see that all the data in the corresponding language will be loaded. Is that clear to everybody? How exactly this connectivity is happening? So you don't have to put it manually. You don't have to tell your end user, okay, man, you go and put this into the URL. You don't have to do that. That's done automatically. That's automatically done. that's completely automatic, guys. Okay, clear? Hope that answer your question, how exactly it is happening at runtime. So that's about your internationalization model. How do you create language specific content? How do you make sure that your application is translated to multiple languages? And now you're free, you can go and put your Telugu language, Tamil language, whatever language you like, you can put that over here in I18 and underscore. I have one of my student who created a software into Telugu language, and he has then given it to the localites of his area, that Fury app running in the mobile device in Telugu language, and they were like mesmerized with the user experience. So it makes a big change in user experience, the language specific trans. So always make sure that when you build an app, make sure you use I18N model always. Okay, and it's very simple, as you saw, to use such a model and just provide language specific texts. Now moving next concept. The next concept is, suppose now I want to transform all my employee name to capital letter. Okay, I have all my employee name and I want to convert all of them into capital letter. Now there's another question from Swami. Can we refer instead of Hindi language to I18N? Yes, remove the URL parameter and press enter. It will go back to the I18N. I18N.property file is always work like a fallback. Now suppose I will give here the language as now German language. Do you think the system will convert my app into German language if I just give DE here? Do you think, guys, it will convert? Of course not, because I didn't really give a file with DE in the system, hence it doesn't know the translation for that. However, the Google Chrome just gives me an offer to translate it automatically. That's a Google Chrome's offer by indicating with this language field I put it. So that's something Google Chrome offers me. But naturally the organic transformation to the different language, which is German, here is not done because there's no file. So what is the fallback? The fallback is I18N. It always goes back to I18N file and picks up the label from there. Okay, so it always works as a default or a fallback mechanism to fetch the labels from there if the language specific file is not available. Clear? Now, suppose I want to translate, or sorry, transform all my employee names to capital letter. Okay. I want it to be in capital letter. And imagine this is coming from an ERP system from KNA1 table, customer master table. So do you go back to your ERP system and change all the data into capital letter? Does it make sense to go back to ERP system and change all your data to capital letter if user want to see it in capital letter, and then tomorrow another user come and say, oh, I want it, sorry, I want it in all in small letter? Then do you again go back and transform all 1 billion 2 billion customers which you have in the system, ERP system, to small letter? And then again somebody says, I want initials to be in caps, so I want camel caps. So then again you go back. So पूरा दिन यही करते रहोगे, दिन रात ट्रांसफॉर्म ही करते रहोगे डेटा को, right? So what is a good practice? A good practice is when the data comes, before the data is binded, before the data is displayed, you do this transformation at runtime. Okay, and that's called a concept called formatter. So what is a formatter? Formatter is required in cases where you want to transform or apply some conversions or transformation on the data. So let me just explain it here. What is formatter? So what is formatter? Formatter is nothing but is a function which is, yes, just like conversion routines or conversion exits in ABAP, is a function which is used to transform, not translate, guys, it's transform. Okay, or data type conversion function which is used before the binding takes place, which is called, okay, which is called before the binding of element takes place. Hence, any kind of runtime data manipulation can be done with the help of formatter concept. Clear, guys? So let's have a look at it quickly in the system. So I have again same diagram which we all are very much aware of. So you have a model on the right side, and this model is supplying data to a view on the left side. So in the view you have a nice little cute input field. So let me just define this, and on the right side you have a model property, and this model property is actually connecting you to this input field. Okay, so this is the connection between this model data and this input field. Clear, guys? Now what happens, you have some data, let's say Anubhav, and it's also displaying data as Anubhav. Now what I want before the binding takes place, the data to be transformed to capital letter. So I will go through this data through a filtering process. Okay, so just the way before you drink water, you put an install an RO. You don't directly take the water out of a tap and drink it. You always pass through a filtering process, a process where there is an RO, there is a membrane, there is a a dust filter. There are a lot of different filters through which it goes through, and then you get a pure water out of RO. Same thing happening here. Before we directly pump in this data to the view input field, we have to now go through a filtering process, a process where some operation, some data manipulation can be done, and that's exactly a formatter is. So you will pass through this through a formatter. So first the data from the binding field goes to the formatter. Now formatter can do anything, whatever formatter like, and then finally whatever data is coming out of formatter, it's a function, guys, so the function will return something out. Okay, so whatever return this function is doing, whatever is this function is returning back to you, that is what is getting now getting input to exactly your UI field. Clear, guys, what exactly where the formatter coming into the picture? So this is a formatter function. You pass in the data which is coming from model to formatter function, and then this formatter output is what is going to the input field which is in the view. Clear, everyone? So that's exactly is happening over here. And then what about, if it's a two-way model, what will happen, guys, when I change the data on the UI? Will it change in the model by going through formatter again? What do you think, guys? It's, let's say it's a two-way model, and what if I change the data on the UI, and will it go through formatter again before putting the data back to the model? No, it won't. That's a good interview question. So in interview, if sometime the interview level is so high, these kind of deep questions are asked. This is a high level interview question where I will say I have a formatter. The data comes from model, got transformed and goes into the input field, and now I change the data in input field. It's a two-way binding. So what will happen while going the data back to the model? Will it go through formatter? The answer is no. It directly goes to the model, guys. So it directly goes as it is to the model. So but only while displaying it comes back through the formatter. So it works only one directional. Other direction is still a free traffic. Only one direction we have this special function only for output purpose, guys. So that's the reason we say formatter is only for output purpose. So let's go back now and experience for our same example of formatter here. So how do you apply formatter? What is the syntax? So we all saw the syntax of binding syntax, property binding syntax, and property binding syntax was, let's say, value property, and then we had something called colon. Okay, we had column, and then we'll put curly braces, and then inside this curly braces we were putting here the path of the JSON. So we were putting /emp str /emp id, something of this sort we were putting. Now addition to that, put a comma, enter, and put a formatter. And here now you can add a function directly if you are using JavaScript. If you're using JavaScript to use, directly add a function. If you're not using JavaScript, you got to now give an object you got to give an object of the formatter. So you will put your object name dot object name or formatter class dot method name which you want to call for formatter. This is the syntax. What is this object name? It's nothing but it's a separate file where you put all reusable functions. Okay, all the reusable functions you will be putting in a separate file. You will be adding a dependency into the controller and defining an object out of it. So let's do this all multi-step process. So I will go back, and now I'll do is I just create a new folder for all my reusable modules. So I say folder, and I name this folder as utils. Utils stands for utilities. So any extra processing which you want, all that goes under utils. Right click new file, and I just give this file name as livesaver.js. Remember, it's a JavaScript file, and I just define my SAP UI define my scaffolding template, guys. This is all we are used to by now. Function, curly braces, and that's it. And then this scaffolding would supposed to return something, and it returns set of functions now. Okay, so in this now we'll return set of functions. So let's return multiple functions. I'll say convert data to upper. Okay, this is a function, and this function has one argument as an input, and whatever is the input, I'm just going to convert it to the uppercase and just return it back. So I'll say return input dot to upper case. That's a JavaScript function, guys. It's a string JavaScript function to convert any value to uppercase, guys. Okay, it's a JavaScript function, guys, to convert any value to uppercase. Clear? So that's my JavaScript function to convert. So that's my reusable module which has collection of all the functions which I would need in future. Okay, now that's my livesaver.js. Now what I'll do is I'll just go back to my controller and add a dependency of that livesaver.js. So I come here and I just mention here the path. So it's Superman slash anybody. Can you tell me the path of my livesaver? Anyone? Can you tell me the path of my livesaver file? Anybody? Let's see who will tell me. Dependency management. So Udit has answered already. Perfect answer, Udit, but you have done a typo. It's case sensitive, so be very careful. Superman slash utils slash livesaver. Perfect, Swami, you are also right. So Superman slash utils slash, it's case sensitive, livesaver, and this object will then comes here to this livesaver. Okay, so I have got this object now, and what you do is you come here and create a global variable. So define a global variable in your controller, and I just name it as, let's say, formatter. Okay, I'm just naming it as a formatter, guys. You can name it as a reuse form also. Okay, something whatever you like, you can name it. So I'm giving reuse form or reuse format, and then I just pump in the object of livesaver into this. That's it. This is now a global object within my view, within my controller. I can reuse it wherever I like this object with preceding with dot. So I use this reuse format, go to my view and see where is my binding done for the employee name. So it's done here. You see, this is the binding done with employee name. Sorry, here text equal to this, and I'll change this syntax a little bit with the syntax number 2 where I put path. Okay, and path is single quote. You use single quote in this now, employee name comma formatter, and then this single quote, and then put dot your object name which you created in the controller reuse format. Okay, dot your function name which is there inside your livesaver.js, and it's convert data to upper. That's it, guys, we are done. That's it. So you see here I kept all the file names different so you can understand. Okay, so there are three aspects. First is the whole of the formatter utility file, JavaScript file, which has lots of functions inside. Second is create its dependency, and this dependency object is stored in a global variable, and then this variable reuse format, in the view you use it with the formatter. Okay, dot the object name dot the function name. This is the syntax how you use formatter. Be careful with the syntax. Don't try to play around with the syntax, otherwise you will fail. So I don't want to, I will not solve your questions if you write me back, Anubhav, my formatter is not called. You need to compare. Try the same example. This is the easiest example of a formatter. Go ahead and try this out, and then come back to me saying, Anubhav, my code is not working, then only I will help you. So I want to know what is your effort in fixing the formatter issue. So you have to follow this, and sometimes people forget this single quote. Okay, sometimes they forget dot, and then they say, Anubhav, it's creepy, it's breaking my head, I don't know how what to do. Come on guys, this is new, you are new to this technology, and it's absolutely fine. You got to break your head, then only you will learn these things. Okay, so you need to do hard work to learn these things. There's no shortcut as such. So that's your syntax. I save this, and now let's go ahead and test it. What do you see now? All the employee name before the binding gets passed through this formatter, which then converts it to the uppercase and refresh. And let's see, oops, there is nothing loading, which means we have some issue. Let's, what do you do when we have an issue? What do you do when you have an issue? Oops, I think it was language issue. So I removed that additional thing, and you see it's converting my data to uppercase, guys. Beautiful. See, all the data got converted automatically to uppercase. But however, when I select, you see in element binding, it's still binding here with the small letter y. This is the original data, and this is formatted data. Clear? Now what if I want to bind again here with this employee name also the capital letter? What do I do? Anybody? If I want here this to also show it in capital letter, what do I do? Anybody? What do I do if I have to show this also in capital letter? Anyone? What do you think? No. Yes. Perfect answer, Udit. Use the formatter here also. With this binding also you use the formatter. Okay. With this binding also use the formatter. So let's come down. Same formatter function can be reused, guys. That's the beauty of creating it in a separate file. It's a dependent file. You can reuse this function 100, 200, 500 places in different views, different controllers. That's the power of creating it as a separate JS file. So now let's come down where we have done the binding with employee number. Here it is. So here also you change it. You say path colon single quote e name comma formatter colon formatter function name. That's it. Done. Game is over. That's it. Come back, refresh, and let's see what happens. Why it's not loading? There's some problem in first time it's not loading. Okay, now it's truly not loading. Press F12, go to source, and you see to uppercase of null. You see cannot read property to uppercase of null. What is happening? Do you know? Initially in this employee name there is no element binding done with simple form, hence this employee name is blank. Okay, this employee name is initial, and this employee name, initial employee name, is passed to your formatter function. Now the formatter function is trying to convert this initial value or undefined value to uppercase. Will it work or not work? Can you use JavaScript to convert any undefined value to uppercase? You cannot. JavaScript gives you an error. So you have to put a safeguarding mechanism in your lifesaver. When you're converting it to uppercase, make sure your input is not initial. Okay, so make sure your input is there. So just put input. That's it. This makes sure that there is something inside this input, and then that's a safeguarding mechanism for conversion. Before you apply conversion, just make a check, and that's it. Okay, if there's nothing into this field value, then it will just simply skip the conversion. Now let's come back, refresh, and voila, you see it's converting it to uppercase first in the table, and I choose it, and you see the value is also converted to uppercase here exactly. And now I just change the value to, let's say, Anubhav. Okay, it's a two-way binding hopefully. So I press F12, and now what I'm doing is I'll just got to get the model object and check this out. So I say var o model sap.ui.getCore dot get model, and that's my default model, and I just say o model dot get property, and just pause slash here, press enter, and see all the data coming up, my XML data, and then just come down. Okay, it's huge data. This is XML model, guys. So huge data is there when I do a get property. So I got to just convert this XML to an object. Okay, convert this XML to an object. So how to convert an XML to an object to see it? Okay, that's very simple. Just go to W3C XML parsing in JavaScript. That's all you need to check. And you can see there's something called DOM object for XML which can convert it. So you just have to use that DOM object. So let me just see XML parsing in JavaScript. How can we do that quickly? So we have to use XML.response HTML, and this is an XML, and then we just XML dot this we have to put that creates a DOM object for me. So var XML DOM equals to XML dot my XML string, press enter. Oops, XML is not defined. Okay, maybe I skip this part, maybe just quickly show you the data directly to the path. So I will go and say get property, and I say get me the property for emp tab slash row number 0123, third row data. Oops, why it's not giving me data at third row? I think it's row slash 3. Yes, you see, and now you see it didn't change the value inside the inside the inside my XML data. Why it didn't change? Because you applied a formatter. So the moment you apply a formatter, this link is broken. This link is broken. It's no more reflecting data back to the model, guys. Though I have changed it here, it's no more reflecting data back to the model. The moment you apply formatter, that's what our observation is now. You can see the moment I add a formatter, the data is not sent back to the model. And maybe let me try for this salary field. So if I make it 250, okay, you can see this is getting changed. You can see 250 is getting changed, but Anubhav is not getting updated. So the field on which you apply formatter, the field on which you apply formatter, the two-way binding stop working for that field. You see, two-way binding for Anubhav, the employee name is no more working with Abe. Abe was not replaced, but salary was replaced. If you just do a get property also, you'll see in the model the data for salary was changed to 250 instead of 6300, but the name was not changed. So that's a disadvantage of applying formatter. If you apply a formatter for that particular field, two-way binding stops working. Okay, it stops working, the two-way binding. So in the PPT, I think I did a mistake. So this link will be broken. Okay, this link is completely broken, guys. The moment you apply a formatter, the property will get disconnected from the user interface. Only one-way binding will work, two-way binding will not work, guys. Hope it's clear to everyone how the system is behaving. Clear, everyone? When you apply formatter, that particular property, the binding will not work. So now this one 903 to, I'll just make it 9003, press enter. You see it changing everywhere, even it changes in the model. So two-way binding working absolutely fine, but the field on which the formatter is applied, the it's not working. Clear, everyone? Hope it's clear. Now next thing, what if you want to pass two values inside a formatter? Okay, what if you want to pass two value inside a formatter? That's something you need to explore it on Google. In next class I will show you. So what we will do is, now we will see how to pass two values inside formatter. How can you do that? And then we will also look at some standard formatting, like standard date formatter. So in the next class when we start, we will talk about passing two values. So let me give an exercise. Okay, let me give an exercise to all of you and see what happens. So exercise for all of you. Okay, now guys, one more interesting point is switch to JSON model, because we know more you're going to use XML model. So I'm switching to JSON model in our code. Okay, you can try these things with XML model also, doesn't matter, but yes, I'm switching to JSON model. So let me just go back, and this guy here, I will make it as a default model, and this guy I'm commenting it out, and then I will also go back to my view. and sorry, my binding in the view, and there's no more binding with row anymore. I don't want to bind with row anymore. And just come back and just refresh and check everything is working fine or not. I just refresh and check it. Yes, it seems to be working. You see, formatter is applied to this also now, right? That's applying to JSON as well. And if I just change it to something dreamy and press enter, it doesn't reflect because there's a formatter on this field, doesn't reflect back the change. Clear? So that's my binding. And you see there's a problem with smoker also and marital status. So that's of course because of our binding, there's a problem. So maybe just come down, and here we have an extra record part. So that's how I'm going to change it, status. And then I will also have this smoker here, and this I can directly do the binding because it's JSON now, no expression is required. And just refresh. So that's my smoker and marital status values, which are also coming up for the JSON model. So now what you all need to do, what is the exercise for all of you? Download my source code as usual, add a new property called surname for every employee in JSON. Okay, add this one, and at runtime concatenate the employee name, which is right now there as a first name, with this, with newly added last name, surname property. Okay, so what you now need to do is, you have two properties, one is employee name and one is its employee surname. Okay, and now you go to pass two values to the formatter actually. And what formatter will produce, formatter will produce a concatenation of these two values, okay, as a single value output, which then goes to the view. So how do you achieve this? Okay, how do you achieve this thing? Okay, wherein two value goes as an input, one value comes as an output. So I'll just quickly give you syntax for that. Instead of this path, now what you need to do is, because there are multiple values, you need to use parts colon an array, because there are multiple values and each array has now one path inside. So you will have a path like this. So first element part slash emp str slash ename, the existing property, and then comes is another path of second value inside this slash emp str slash, let's say, surname I am putting. So now what will happen, this function, formatter function, would receive two arguments, and you just have to concatenate both of them and return one output, which finally goes to the input field. So user will never know that you have these two as two different properties in JSON, but user will always see it as a one. Okay, user will always see it as a one, guys. Clear everyone? How exactly you have to do this thing? So you use parts instead of just one path, and then formatter is as it is, just put formatter in a function name, that's it, nothing else is required. So this is how you got to go ahead and achieve this. Maybe in tomorrow's class I'll show you solution for this too. I will update my JSON file also. So I will upload the project today after updating the JSON file. So you don't have to insert this new property surname. I will do it right away for you in the JSON file, and then I will give the project to all of you. Clear, guys? So that's an exercise for you. You need to just do this, add a new property, which I will do it for you now only. And then you have to just go ahead and do it. Okay, so let's try to add this new property in the JSON quickly. Okay, just now let's go back. I'm just going to add this. Any questions in the meantime, anybody? Please feel free to ask any questions you have. So I say add a surname and just put the value. and Richa, I say Sharma, Swami. Swami, can you tell me your surname, please? Are you there? I just add the value. Raji, can you also tell me? Swami Raju, okay. Kathir, okay. Let me just put that here. And then Jack and Jones. That's a brand name actually. Meenakshi Singh. Gopal. Gopal, are you there, Gopal? Okay, fine. Great. So that's the surname property. Now, guys, you need to show me in tomorrow's class how would you pass these two properties in a formatter function, which you have to also define here. You have to create a new formatter function. I'll just create one. So say join, whatever name you like, you can give that. So whatever formatter function name you would like, you'll give that. And this function now receives two argument, x and y. Whatever you like, you can give a name, x and y. And then ultimately this is going to do concatenation. So you got to join both of these x and y. So you can say return, and you can simply do x plus a blank value, a space between first name and last name, and then you can just do a plus of y. This is how something you need to do to join this. And then, as I told you, the syntax to pass in two arguments to the formatter function. I'm removing it right now. I'll not show you the solution. So this is something you need to try it out yourself and get me the solution back. You can also use string concatenation functions available in JavaScript. You can check them online. There's a lot of online references for string concatenation function on JavaScript. So this is also you can use. Easy ways use plus operator for concatenation in JavaScript. With that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow. We will talk about formatter, this example of passing multiple values. I will also upload solution of last exercise to the training blog after reviewing the changes quickly. And then we will talk about SAP Fiori UX from tomorrow onwards. So Fiori classes are starting from tomorrow. We will build Fiori user interface right from tomorrow. Let me see if I have any other missing topics. I will cover them, and then maybe we'll switch to Fiori application development, master detail, work list, different variety of controls in Fiori language, what is introduction to Fiori launchpad and stuff like that. So that's all we will start in tomorrow's class onwards. Okay. Yes, OData model, very important. We will talk about it. So that's something which after the Fiori chapter I will discuss. So there's a lot to come. So it's just don't worry. We have about just 45% of our course completed by far. By end of this week, we have about 50% of our course completed. So OData model will come around when 70% is done. So right now my focus is to build user interface and give you the concepts of MVC. And then slowly when your maturity develops, we will switch to the OData model as well. Okay. Okay, that's it for the day. See you tomorrow. Have a nice day and goodbye.